All right, we are live, and I guess Joey cannot hear. Hopefully, he can. But we are live. I'm going to play us a song, and if you can hear, then there is nothing wrong with your audio, and it might be on my end. Here is my song, Make America Objective Again, a spoken word song.
Let's make America objective again. We're smack in the middle of what they call the information age, but with all the censorship and clamor, it doesn't always feel like it. People these days seem quick to take offense. Maybe they've always been that way, but it's like everyone's tiptoeing around instead of standing firm. Here's my take: let's make America objective again. And the best part, it doesn't start with some big shot proclamation. It starts with you right where you are. Step one is simple: talk to folks. Better yet, listen, really listen to what they've got to say. There's an old truth in this: you'll win more people over by showing interest in them than by trying to make them interested in you. Ask questions, hear their side, and let them know you're paying attention. Then toss your own thoughts into the ring and see if they'll give you an ear too. If they do, you're onto something, a real back and forth. If they don't, no harm done. Tip your hat, flash a smile, and say thanks anyway. Why thank them? Because they've just spared you the headache of arguing with a brick wall. No sense wasting breath on someone glued to their own ideas. Move on and find folks who'll meet you halfway. That's your starting line. Listen, share, and sort out who's willing next. Seek out the real ones, people who aren't just spouting lines or playing for applause, but who actually want to dig into ideas and chase the truth. When you find someone genuine, someone who'll speak their mind and still hear you out, that's a keeper. Stick with it, and before long you'll have a crew, an army even of folks ready to talk, ready to listen, and ready to reason together. That's the heart of making America objective again. It's not about shutting anyone down or winning every fight. It's about slicing through the touchy feuds and getting back to where ideas can duke it out in the open, fair and square. People want to feel understood, give them that, and you'd be surprised how many start wanting the truth too. Start small, start with you, and watch it spread. One good talk at a time, we can steer this thing back on course. And making America objective again. And the best part, it doesn't start with some big shot proclamation. It starts with you, right where you are. Step one is simple: talk to folks. Better yet, listen, really listen to what they've got to say. There's an old truth in this: you'll win more people over by showing interest in them than by trying to make them interested in you. Ask questions, hear their side, and let them know you're paying attention. Then toss your own thoughts into the ring and see if they'll give you an ear too. If they do, you're onto something, a real back and forth. If they don't, no harm done. Tip your hat, flash a smile, and say thanks anyway. Why thank them? Because they've just spared you the headache of arguing with a brick wall. No sense wasting breath on someone glued to their own ideas. Move on and find folks who'll meet you halfway. That's your starting line. Listen, share, and sort out who's willing next. Seek out the real ones, people who aren't just spouting lines or playing for applause, but who actually want to dig into ideas and chase the truth. When you find someone genuine, someone who'll speak their mind and still hear you out, that's a keeper. Stick with it, and before long you'll have a crew, an army even of folks ready to talk, ready to listen, and ready to reason together. That's the heart of making America objective again. It's not about shutting anyone down or winning every fight. It's about slicing through the touchy feuds and getting back to where ideas can duke it out in the open, fair and square. People want to feel understood, give them that, and you'd be surprised how many start wanting the truth too. Start small, start with you, and watch it spread. One good talk at a time, we can steer this thing back on course.
Well, that was a good song. And does it feel good? Can you tell when you write a good song now? I mean, that was really good.
Yeah, but sometimes what I like ain't what everybody else likes. And some people are different, but yeah, I mean, I felt it was some truth there. It's listen, really listen.
Yeah.
And if the other person isn't open to what you're saying, then it's time to, like, hey, you know what? I got to move on. I got to get going.
That is very true. I often feel that way about this show. I don't know if my opinions are welcome anymore, but I do listen, and I've learned a lot. So that's why I've hung out. But the truth is the truth, and when it's time to move on, you move on.
Yeah, and that's the best thing you can do is just move on. Again, and I see a lot of folks on social media trying to grant interviews with people, and and showing how intolerant, and usually showing how intolerant the left is. But I think you could probably do the same thing with the right as well.
Right.
And sometimes, you know what? If a person's stuck in their own world, they're too culturally captured. Just keep walking.
Fortunately for us, there seems to be a middle ground that we usually come across. I've seen patterns though, and it does make me wonder. Like, I think and I could be wrong. You could always tell me that I'm wrong or right. I'm more of a direct kind of person. I fight passive aggressiveness with a passion, although I see its merit sometimes, but I think it's abused way too often. And I think amongst friends, it shouldn't be that way, but oftentimes, sometimes things are hard to say. And I've tried doing my own show, and it's hard. And that doesn't mean I won't try again. It just means, and I've appreciated learning a lot here with you. So I want to keep going, but when my views are shot or are not being heard, or there's no place for it, then yeah, it's time to move on, dude.
Yeah, and sometimes we want to be heard so bad that we force it, and that's never a good idea, and then it causes conflict, particularly when you don't feel respected. Well, I mean, if someone's not going to respect you, why force it? They don't have to listen to you if they don't want to. And we got Mirnan here.
That's where friendship does usually it usually helps. But yeah, Mirn, welcome to the show.
Now,
Thank you.
I'm going to play another song. This is Joey. Do you know who Joseph Wamba was?
I think you've told me once before.
Well, he was a writer, and he was a police officer. And basically, after he got out of the police force, he put pen to paper and became a writer. And I just, I wrote a little thing about him. You know what? The way Sino did it, he said his name. I think it didn't say it correctly. But bear with me anyway. Joseph Wamba.
Joseph Wamba cashed out, 88 years old. Born in 37, back when they slapped the silent generation label on kids who'd get their asses beat if they opened their mouths too wide. Silent, sure, till the fist flew. He came up in East Pittsburgh, got shuffled in a Catholic school, where the rulers stung like hell, but signed up as a Marine at 17 on spitting iron. After that, he hit the streets as a cop for the Los Angeles Police Department. 14 years of it, clawing his way to detective sergeant before he ditched the badge for a pen. He didn't write pretty little lies, he scratched out what he knew. Police work, the kind that leaves you bruised, bitter and spitting gravel. He rolled through a world that was cracking open. The 60s and 70s, when the suits and the hippies were slugging it out, and his books were like a jagged bottle smashed on the bar of that mess. The new Centurions, the Blue Knight, the Onion Field. No polish, just the real shit. Cops bleeding, sweating, breaking under the weight of it all. Back then, people still nodded at a uniform, maybe even meant it. But Wamba saw the rock creeping in, respect draining away, the badge turning into a bullseye. Today, it's a damn free-for-all. Cops defunded, slandered, kicked to the curb, while the loudmouths howl and the silent ones fade out. Wamba lived at Hartsteel Town, rough Marine copywriter. He didn't just sit there watching the world twist. He grabbed it by the throat and made it cough up the truth. The kind of guy who'd sneer at the machine, chewing us all a poke, then keep swinging anyway. So here's to you, Joseph Wambaugh, R.I.P. You hard-nosed son of a bitch. You stared into the filth, wrote it straight and didn't flinch. The men and women in blue lost a voice today, but those pages you left behind still roar louder than the sirens dying out on some busted LA corner. Joseph Wambaugh, R.I.P. You hard-nosed son of a bitch. You stared into the filth, wrote it straight and didn't flinch. The men and women in blue lost a voice today, but those pages you left behind still roar louder than the sirens dying out on some busted LA corner.
Joseph Wambaugh. I didn't read his books as much as I saw his movies. The Blue Knight is enjoyable, an enjoyable TV show. I really enjoyed also The Black Marble, as I remember seeing it. I think it was 1979 the film came out. And it was really kind of interesting. But again, there are people who have weaponized offense and take offense to everything. And are we going to find people that are just what are you doing? You're going to get muted, dude.
I'm sorry. I went to the kitchen for a minute. I just got back.
Okay. Because you were making kidding it like you were licking yourself, dude. That's not cool.
I was not licking myself. I don't do that on here.
All right. I thought that's what you like, playing little games, but that's okay. I'm
a good kitty.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself Kitty Minerals? Do you consider yourself an objective person?
What do you mean?
Do you consider yourself? There's no meaning. Like you're either objective or you're not.
Well, yeah. I mean, like if somebody's spewing a bunch of bullshit to me, I'm going to call them out on it.
Are you an active listener?
Yeah. Well, I try to be, but I smoke a lot of weed and zone out a lot.
Okay. Joey, would you consider yourself an active listener?
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's really a skill that I have yet. Someone said that about my old man. They told him you're not an active listener.
There are times I'm not perfect, and especially on personal phone calls and stuff. I mean, both of us kind of get into our respective zones and what suddenly it's we're missing each other's point. And then when the point does get through, oftentimes it gets missed. And so I think it depends. Like professionally, active listening was a huge part of my career. And I don't know. I was never an expert at it, but once I started, really kind of focusing on it, and it was a muscle, a skill I had to build up to. But I feel like if it's mindfulness is actually something I really enjoyed the practice of, and mindfulness really brought me into focus with active listening. And when I learned really what active listening meant and how to utilize it and how to and how to make it work for you, and then I started to see its merits, and I learned a lot from that. But yeah, I do. I do waver. I don't think I've ever really been super. I've never had a super good memory. It's like just part of how I have always been, and so I've worked really hard to, worked hard at that at very least. I think it's important.
Yeah.
Well, and today there are people that do not want to hear or listen to other people, and they not only want that, they don't want other people to hear a conversation, and they will shut it down. And they also do it on the internet. But I think again, you can find an army of people who are willing to listen, be who are willing to listen. I mean, basically talk to you, and they're willing to listen to you. And but right now, I do feel there are a lot of people out there who don't think that they have to listen to other people, or people that they disagree with, and we've lost that. And that's one of the reasons why I say let's make America objective again. And if we don't have people that are active listeners, we're not going to. That's not going to happen. Anything to add? I'm going to end the show kind of early today. I know there's only 4 people listening, and that's kind of what
Um,
happens. Yeah, go ahead.
uh, I wanted to tell y'all I've gotten to work on that animation, and just before the show started, I started working on minute 4 of it. Then I got 2 more minutes to animate.
There we go. So
I have a rough draft at the beginning that I uploaded privately and gave y'all the private link to.
there we go. So hopefully we can find a group of active listeners. And someone said you just started, Brian, and perhaps I just started active listening to people. I do listen, but sometimes I'm caught up in my own thoughts and I get a little bit self obsessed. And sometimes I find myself talking to myself more than usual. Mirinals, do you talk to yourself?
Yeah, a lot when I'm alone.
How about you, Joey?
I really don't. Um, I don't. Um, yeah, I do get lost in thought, but I don't talk it out. I'm wondering if that's maybe something I'm missing out on. I do notice I have seen you do it, and you know, it's an interesting sort of trait, I guess. But when you think of active listening, what's the number one thing that you can think of that would help you be a more active listener than you are? Not that you're not. I'm just curious. What strategy can you apply?
Um, Listening, like just practice, like even on the internet, like hearing what people are saying and repeating back to what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the number one thing. But sometimes it's taking notes, because sometimes you might not get your word in for 5-10 minutes at a time. And that's one strategy that I could probably improve at. But I try to make notes, and then oftentimes, later on down the line, when there is a break or a moment to go in, it's like it's sometimes you find the subject's changed 4 or 5 times and it's too late. So it sometimes is a war of attrition to get a word in, and other times it's good to take a back seat and have a listen. But if I'm not being listened to, then that, or if the feedback is negative, that's something that I'd like to know about.
Well, here are the pros and cons of talking to yourself. Number one, you work shit out. Talking to yourself is like having a one-man brainstorm. Uh, you can hash out your problems, untangle your thoughts, and figure out what's eating you without anyone else sticking their nose. It's you versus you. Sometimes That's the best fight to have. 2, no filter needed. You don't have to pretty it up or dodge hurt feelings. Say what you mean, raw and ugly, and there's no one to clutch their pearls. It's a free zone. Your head, your rules. 3, practice for the real thing. Got something to say? Rehearse it out loud to yourself. You'll hear how it lands, tweak the rough spots, and walk into an actual conversation less likely to trip over your own tongue. 4, keeps you sane mostly. Sometimes you've got to let the steam out or you'll blow. Muttering to yourself can bleed off pressure better than bottling it up. You're screaming at the wall. Plus, it's cheaper than a shrink. 5, you're your own best listener. Yeah, nobody knows you better than you. And then the cons look crazy as hell. Let's be real. People see you yakking to yourself on the street. They're crossing to the other side. Society's got to stick up its ass. Normal and talking solo doesn't fit the script.
Probably because that is maybe a method that's not taught in schools. It's actually that was, at least in my education, talking to yourself was maybe a symptom that something was wrong, and I also think too, sometimes that could defeat the purpose of a live show.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about sounds great in a recording, and practice does make perfect. And I consider myself to be a hard worker, not the hardest, but I am a hard worker. And when I'm onto something, it's something I do want to excel at and get better at. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I often think going in without preconceptions, without some sort of agenda, and that usually has been the focus of doing shows, just unscripted shows. Now, if you're talking about doing scripted shows, I see that all day long, like making like that, how that really does help. And for a live show, I do feel like this is talking out loud. This is the opportunity to let it out. And if it comes out like a shriek that somebody looks at and thinks is odd and weird and whatever, I don't care. Like that's just my perception of it. That's just me trying to do better at that. I've come, in my view, a long way in terms of expressing myself when the moments are right. I've also gotten a lot better at taking a back seat and listening. And so, I've had to do a lot of things in sharing a podcast, that things I had not learned before. So there's that.
Well, number 2, you get caught in your own echo chamber. If you're just nodding at your own bullshit, you might miss the bigger picture. No one's there calling you out when you're wrong, and that can leave you stuck in a loop of your own making.
Yeah, it sounds like scripted nonsense to me.
Perhaps. Number 3 can get out of hand. Start quiet, and then the next thing you know, you're pacing the room, yelling at imaginary enemies. It's a slippery slope. Just thinking out loud to a full-on nutcase. 4, no fresh takes. You're stuck in your own head. No outside voices means no new angles. Sometimes you need someone else to shake the snow globe and show you what you're missing. Now, again, when you're in the internet, you can listen to all types of voices. So And you can you listen to more intelligent voices than are out there in real life amongst your peer group. 5 might drown out the quiet. Consistent chatter, even to yourself, can clog up the silence. There's value in shutting the hell up sometimes, letting your brain breathe instead of filling it with your own noise. Now, I'm seeing if they've done any study on people who talk to themselves. Okay. Now, psychologists have indeed studied people who talk to themselves, and their findings paint a pretty clear picture. It's normal, common behavior that often comes with some real benefit. They call it self-talk or private speech, and it's been a topic of interest for decades, with research showing it's not just chatter, it's tied to how our brain works through problems, emotions, and tasks. Studies back this up. For instance, research from the Quarterly Journal of Experimental Psychology showed that people who talk to themselves while searching for objects, while saying, keys, keys, where are you, found them faster than those who stayed silent.
I do that actually. If I were a key, where would I be?
If I were a key, check your balls.
Yes, sir.
The psychologist behind it, Daniel, I don't know how to say this name, but it might be Swiggly Bigley, and Gary Lupian, sounds foreign, figured that speaking aloud sparks memory, and that is true, by the way, with regard to memory.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes good to, like the color of the room and just
like I said, as a part of practice, it's extraordinary. It's a great tool to have. And also I just want to just go back to education was always, it was always about being quiet and listening in class. And it wasn't really about, people who spoke out were actually reprimanded. And that's changed so much over time that it's certainly a thing.
Yeah. There have been times that I've been really pissed off at someone and I've been stewing about it, and I wanted to fight them and they weren't there for me to release my energy, and I've been bloviating to myself really angrily. And someone said they saw me on this was years ago. They saw me on the street sometime, blowing off steam, and I looked like a madman. So I said, "Oh my God, I don't want that to happen."
Yeah. But I've always found that to be a really great quality of yours, and is why you do incredible videos, and you do take to monologues and very well. And I think that it shows that you do practice those, and that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I'll end on this. So yeah, the study, they studied it plenty. The takeaway, most of the time, it's a sign the brain's doing a job. Sorting and solving are just blowing off steam. Nothing crazy about that. They've even looked at why some do it more. People who spend a lot of time alone, like only children, or those feeling lonely, might lean on self-talk as a stand-in for social connection. Stress, anxiety can crank it up too. Think of someone muttering through a tough day to keep it together. But here's the flip side. When it's uncontrollable, paired with hallucinations or tied to jumbled thoughts like schizophrenia, that's when you want to get the hell out of the room. It's a signal something deeper. That's rare, though, and psychologists are quick to say that on its own, talking to yourself isn't a red flag. And there's also no one size fits all. And again, there's healthy talk to yourself. I think when you're angry sometimes and you're like having an imaginary argument, that's kind of caca. And it's a self-defense mechanism. Okay, here we go. Talking to yourself is a form of genius. I don't know about that, but maybe, hopefully, because I do it a lot. A little genius at work. It's a defense mechanism for some. Talking to yourself because you are unable to get all your thought out without getting shut down, and that is true. So,
hearing yourself talk is a real lesson too. I mean, just recording, and I've always liked recording my voice, and which I never considered talking to myself, but it is, now that I'm thinking about it. And, listening back, especially professionally, it was probably one of the more interesting lessons to actually hear how to respond to certain circumstances.
Well, I think with dealing with therapy sometimes, and people are often unaware of how. Like, I think it is a good thing to record yourself. And if you're in therapy, I think therapy sessions, and if you're in couples therapy, it's a good idea to record yourself and to see how you actually come across, because, like even your own voice, you are not aware of how you sound and what you sound like. So filming yourself can be an important thing on how you're selling yourself, and it can kind of show how you come across to others. And I think that's really important, and I think more people should do it. However, I don't think that people should have therapy on television or on camera. This is something that's been happening primarily since the late 80s, where people have mental breakdowns on television and now on the internet, and I just don't think that is good or healthy. I think it's that part.
Yeah, they need to stop crying on television.
That's correct. Is there anything to say before I end the show?
Miriam,
how about you?
Yeah, I have a lot of places to go, but I think we have talked this one down. So
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. And with that, it's good to know how you come across. A lot of people don't, and I'm looking for stop crying on television, because that's where I want to end it. Because I think people should stop crying on television. Why?
Yes.
For guilt, flapping your gums, jittery little punk, human beings dominate. Where is it? I can't find it. You know what? I just think we'll end on. Should we end on just flapjacks? Yeah. Well. Oh, here we go. Stop crying on television. And yeah, that's one of the things I'd like to stop seeing is people crying on TV.
Me too.
Oh no, the tears are falling. Cue the zoom and cue the lights. Oh, that's bright. One rehearsed apology, time to monetize. Your pain's a brand, your grief's a show. You cry into the camera, throw money. Is this real?
No.
Is this pain?
No.
See, or is this a Netflix deal in the making? Turn the volume up, it's primetime regret. Another life meltdown, place your bets. Stop crying on television and the internet. Watch we see through your tears and your empty cry. Yeah, every soap story comes with a check, and we ain't buying your pain. Not yet. Oh look, the influencers weeping again. I swear I'm so broken, like, comment, send. Eat your suffering, sell it as proof. A clown with a tissue in a soundproof booth. These
These tears are heavily edited. Do you want to skip this trauma? Pay for premium.
Stop crying on television and the other. What we see through your tutors and your empty third eye. Every soap story comes with a check, and we ain't buying your pain. Not yet.
This has been another episode of Manufactured Misery. Tune in next breakdown.